Well, I want to thank everybody for joining me this morning. My name's Matthew. I work with John Hall Tours, obviously. I've been a resident of Alaska since 1986. Been working with the Halls since 2003, but I am an avid fisherman. My passion, I love tourism, but my passion is catching fish. So rainbows, salmon, otherwise. Here to answer your questions. I am in about 2 weeks going to be a certified guide on the Kenai River. But to give you a little background, I've been doing remote rafting trips. I've been on countless halibut trips. I've been on, out west, up north, southeast Alaska, everywhere. So my goal today is to not only get you prepared for your trip to Alaska, to enjoy a little bit of fishing, but also answer any questions anyone has. And as you know, in fishing, there are no silly questions. So with that, just again, good morning, happy Cinco de Mayo, and I'm going to get into it. The Hall family has been doing business in Alaska since 1985. With our tours that we offer, we give that customized feel to it. As you know, for those of you who've traveled up with us, we really take pride in what we do. And over the years, to enhance that experience as you come to Alaska, why not add a day or two of fishing, or 3 if you want to do some saltwater fishing, you want to do some salmon fishing, you want to catch the biggest rainbow of your life, if you want to go out and we can charter airplanes and get you out to remote Alaska where it's just you and your spouse and the bears and your pilot. So whatever it is, we love Alaska. The Hall family here in the picture, but I've been fishing with all these guys. Of course, Liz is the best fisherman of all. Sorry, Joe. I know you're a great fisherman, but Liz just gets it done. But if you guys want to type in any questions, please let me know so you don't forget them. Don't wait till the end. I'm one of those guys to make this, this is your experience as well. So I'm not here to preach. I'm here to answer your questions and make you feel comfortable. If you have any questions, just type them in, let me know, and we'll certainly address them. Tons and tons of options. The biggest thing to consider if you're fishing is what kind of species do you want to fish for? You want to do a saltwater trip? You want to do a salmon trip? What kind of salmon? Do you want to do king salmon, silver salmon, or the notorious any salmon? It doesn't matter as long as I catch a salmon in Alaska. So we can address all of those, but we certainly don't want you coming up in August to catch a king on the Kenai River because there's seasons and such like that. So if it's just to catch a salmon, that's easy. But if you have a specific species in mind, let us know so we can maximize that opportunity for you. We, as you know, specialize in the small group tours. This year with COVID restrictions and moving forward, I think into 2022 as well, we are restricting our group sizes to 24 or less. So that does not mean you can't come up again 2 or 3 days early to get out on a fishing trip. So small groups and making it, you're part of our family. We appreciate your business. We appreciate the opportunity to show you Alaska, but you really become, part of our family when you're up here. We won't let you just sit on the bus and take pictures. We're going to get involved with all that. We travel throughout Alaska on all our tours. We have 10 different land tours. We have our small boat tours. We have our catamaran tours in Southeast Alaska, down there by Juneau and Ketchikan, but we take you throughout the state. There's fishing pretty much everywhere. We have not yet dialed in a charter business for Kaktovik, but that was a joke. That's up there on the Arctic slope. But great fishing out of the Fairbanks area, Denali Park, Anchorage, Talkeetna, Seward, Kodiak, and again down in Southeast if you're in Sitka or Juneau. Or if you want to fish somewhere that's not on this list, if you want to get out to Dillingham, if you want to get over to King Salmon, if you want to reach out to me at any time, and that's an open invitation. I don't know how to write it down, but if you'll write this down, my cell phone number is 907-301-1985. Please call me and I will talk fishing with you until the battery on your phone dies or until you want to hang up. But I will give you that information to help you go chase a salmon, go chase a king, whatever. But let me know how I can help. And anyone is welcome. Any of our guests are welcome to call my cell phone direct with a reminder that I live in Anchorage and we are on Alaska time. We're not on Minnesota time. So don't call me at 7 o'clock in the morning in Florida because I'm not going to answer because it's only 3 here. We do visit our glaciers, so we can get you out fishing next to those as well. This is just a little bit of review of what John Hall Tours offers in Alaska. We're going to show you these glaciers on our cruises, on our motor coach tours. The scenery and wildlife, people love coming to see. That's what you're coming up here for, is that scenery and wildlife. This picture here is at Wonder Lake, deep in Kantishna Park, Denali Park at Kantishna. So this is about 89 miles into the park. The cabins that we stay at are about 3 miles past that. But this is Wonder Lake. This is on the north side of Denali. Obviously, you can see the mountain there. There's rainbow trout fishing at Wonder Lake. It's catch and release. If you're on one of our tours, the folks at the Denali Backcountry Lodge, our partners out there, they have the fishing gear. Don't bring your fishing gear to Alaska if you're on one of our tours. They have it. Because you are in a national park, the fishing licenses are already included in your visit out there. So with that being said, the Denali Backcountry Lodge is actually located on Moose Creek, which is full of grayling. So catch and release for rainbows in grayling in Denali Park, Alaska. So you can't beat that. And you're going to keep your eye out for those moose and bears and caribou and every other critter crawling around up there in Alaska. So pretty awesome up there to be sitting there casting a fly rod or a spinning rod. You don't have to be a fly fisherman. You don't have to be born in Montana to fish in Alaska. But great fishing out there. I will tell you, and I'm sorry, I'm excited. I'll have to slow down. I'll take a deep breath. When you visit the Denali Backcountry Lodge at Kantishna, because we spend 2 nights out there on all of our trips except one, which is the Denali Explorer, but if you're spending 2 nights at the Backcountry Lodge, you've got to realize, and it'll take you a day, the day trips leave the area between 4 and 5 in the evening. So again, in June and July, when it doesn't get dark, go fishing at 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night. Wait for those day visitors to leave, and then go out and have a little more serenity on the lake. Instead of having the day visitors in there, it's just a lodge guest. There's a couple lodges back there. But I guess what I'm saying is don't go fishing at 1 or 2 in the afternoon. Go fishing either in the morning before the buses get there or in the afternoon. That's just Denali Park. Questions from anybody? Sorry, I'm so excited and going, but when I talk about fishing, my blood gets pumping a little better. We do go up to Prudhoe Bay, well, near Prudhoe Bay, so that's up north on our Three Bears tours and our national park tours. We get up to the north slope there. There is some Arctic char and king salmon fishing. I'm going to write that down. But right now, as of today, I don't have any salmon or char guys on the north slope, but make a note to find out. Down in Southeast, if you're on the small boat or big boat tours, I don't believe we're partnering with the big boats after last year, but if you visit Southeast Alaska and you're down in Juneau or Sitka or Ketchikan, Ketchikan's a great place. All 3 of those places are fantastic for saltwater salmon and halibut. So saltwater salmon fishing usually is done in a downrigger mode. So you're trolling between 2 and 5 miles an hour. When the silvers come in, we will cast or mooch for them. But a lot of times if you're fishing kings or the bigger silvers, you've got those rods out there, the downriggers are on, and it can be nonstop. So we'll get to some pictures. But Southeast offers fishing a little closer to your port, obviously. So sometimes 20, 30 minutes, sometimes an hour. A little shorter boat ride. So I'm going to say things 5 times because that's just how I am. But when you're in Southeast Alaska, it's shorter trips, but you can see how rough the water is out there. It can be a little rougher, but Southeast Alaska obviously provides some pretty secluded water and comfort. Great charter boats. What we like to do is work with smaller charter companies that we have our relationship with, our partners, usually 6 to 8 people on those boats. So we don't want to get you on a big party boat, 10 or 12 rods. pounds with lines tangling. We want you to have a great experience. We want your time to be maximized. So we use the smaller charter boats, 6 to 8 people usually. There is fly fishing out of Juneau and Ketchikan, so they'll take you in a float plane, fly you to remote lake. So if you want to catch some Arctic char, some gullies, some rainbows, some salmon, there is fly fishing down in Southeast. It's not just saltwater fishing. Little tugboat, I think that's the Time Bandit. Yeah, that's the Time Bandit down in the Kodiak area. So you never know when you're going to see the movie stars when you're out there fishing. Everybody knows a lot of our salmon go down to Pike's Market. This picture is actually taken down in Pike's Market in Seattle, but a lot of our seafood gets down there. We've got the troll caught salmon. Those lobster tails aren't ours, but you can see some halibut stuff back there. You can see that the first run of kings is off Copper River. That's going to start here in about a week. But if you want to pay $75 a pound, you can do that, or you can go catch a king salmon out of Cordova if you go on our Untamed Alaska trip. So again, that goes back to my early introduction of let us know what type of salmon you want to go fishing for. If you have a specific species, or if you're chasing the ever famous Alaskan salmon, then that's a little easier. But if you're targeting, kings, sockeyes, silvers, let us know so we are ensuring that your time up here is not wasted. So great fishing. It's nothing like taking home some fresh fish. That brings me to a good point here. How much fish is enough fish? I know a lot of folks are used to, going out in the rivers and catching bass and crappies and such. But in Alaska, if you go silver salmon fishing with halibut, it's not really hard to get over 100 pounds of salmon. What do you do with 100 pounds of salmon and halibut? And a lot of times that's too much. So a good thing to consider, we certainly want you to have a good time catching the fish. But if you just want to take 1 or 2 of them home, let your captain know, let us know. We'll pass that information on. We have had in the past guests go out on larger charter boats, and all of a sudden your bill for fish processing and FedExing it back to home costs more than your charter. So how much fish do you want to take? And if you want to take it home, that's great. We want you to take it home. But be aware that it's pretty easy to get, up to 50 to 100 pounds of fish on some of these charters. Those are the king salmon. There are still rivers in Alaska that you can go catch and keep a king salmon. What's getting more and more popular now is catching the kings, taking a picture and putting them back in there. But if you want to catch a king and put it in the net and take it home, we can certainly make sure that we put you on the right trip for that. And so we don't want you to invest a day of fishing and the money and fly out and find out it's catch and release. So if you want to catch a king and keep it, let us know. So we get you on the right trip and at the right time of the year. So average king salmon in Alaska that you're going to catch is going to be between 20 to 35 pounds. So those big 70 and 80 pounders, they're still around, but it's not like it used to be. So in all reality, you're looking at 20, 30, 40 pound fish, which can be a blast. It's a lot of fun. There's me a little bit of shrimping. So we do a little bit of spot shrimping. We set some pots and we go out in Prince William Sound. Part of going out fishing is just the excitement and the adventure of the trip. It's not sitting there with a calculator and figuring out, 38 pounds of halibut's going to pay for my trip. It's more of the whales and the scenery and the folks you're fishing with. So it's the adventure that we're having while we're out there. This is what we want you to avoid. This is the combat fishing. This is down on the Kenai Peninsula during sockeye season. We call it combat fishing because everybody stands about 5 or 6 feet apart if you're lucky, sometimes closer, and it's a little bit of a sight to see. So if you're on our trip down on the Kenai Peninsula, you're going to go right by this, but we really don't want our guests out there combat fishing. This is a little different lifestyle. Imagine Walmart on steroids with everybody fishing. That's what combat fishing is all about. There's different times of the year to come up for different fishing. So, if you're already set on that Untamed trip in July, well, what's running in July? And you can see there pretty much everything's running in July. But that goes back to what are you really targeting? If you're coming up in May or June, May, we don't have tours in May, but if you're coming up that first week of June, there is some rainbow fishing, but not until the 11th or 12th. So again, let us know what species you really want to chase and pursue on that trip. There is saltwater king salmon fishing pretty much year round in several locations. So we can discuss that. I gave you my cell phone number. At the end of this, one of the gals is going to put my email address on there as well. So it's matt@kissalaska.com. But again, glad to answer any questions about any trip that I can. See the bears here. Well, the bear, and he's chasing those sockeye salmon. Those sockeye salmon coming in Alaska in such huge numbers. Those sockeye are really what feed the ecosystem in Alaska. So as you get around, even in Anchorage, but down by King Salmon, out by Talkeetna, you get these runs, tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of fish. The bears eat them, the eagles eat them. When the bears are eating the salmon, they're not eating the moose. So the moose are a little more relaxed. So the run of salmon actually helps those moose have a little relaxation for about 2.5 months. But without getting into it, Bristol Bay last year had 50 million reds, and about 15 million of those reds went into Lake Iliamna. So it's pretty awesome to get out there and not just catch fish, but enjoy the experience of seeing what's out there. It's not uncommon on salmon and rainbow trips, especially in the summer, to see these bears out there. And what you have to remember is those bears have about 100, 120 days to eat fish. They don't eat tourists. They eat, unless you're poking them with a stick or something, they're not going to bother you. When we visit places like Katmai, Brooks Falls, and Denali Park, Denali doesn't have salmon, but when we see those bears, they don't want to chase us. They just want to chase fish or food or whatever. So they are used to the click of our camera, not anything else. They're not aggressive bears. You have to do some pretty silly stuff, but your tour manager will tell you all about that. Where the fishing is great and when. Again, what kind of experience are you looking for? What's your budget? Let us know. We got our trips going into September, and really anytime after the first week of June, the fishing is on. So salmon, halibut, and all that anytime, depending on where you are. And that's why I say come up a day or two early. And just a reminder to all our guests, you do come up a day or two early. Our partners with our hotel partners throughout the state will offer us that John Hall discount. So if you want to book your own hotel, you can. Let our office team help you with hotel accommodations, recommend fly out services. Again, call me if I can offer any guidance, but you can see how busy the bears get with the salmon. So there's different peaks. Those bears are following those salmon around. This is at Brooks Falls. So this is on our national parks tour in July. We go down there. Brooks Falls is about 225 miles southwest of Anchorage, over by King Salmon. That's where you see the bears standing on the falls catching the fish. And went out there last year, and I think Liz and I saw like 24 or 25 bears. And they're just out there for the same reason we are. We're watching them, but they're chasing salmon. It's pretty awesome to just put the rod down, put the camera down too. Enjoy that moment for 5 or 10 or 15 minutes and listen to those bears grunt at each other and chew on the salmon, and listen to the little hierarchy there. You can see that little bear there. He's got a nice little catch of sockeye in his mouth there, but it's really interesting to watch those 700 and 800 pound bears standing on the falls. And you're at the viewing dock, which is where this picture was taken from, and below you emerges a 1,000 or 1,100 pound bear that is obviously bigger than this guy, and with a couple grunts and shoulder movements, this little guy takes off. So they got little pecking rights to the fishing out there at Brooks. This is from our Three Bears tour a couple years ago. We flew into a remote part of Katmai National Park, and we took a group out there. There was 12 of us. We float planed it out. You can see everybody's wearing their hip boots. We walked about 1/3 of a mile. Our guide, Scott, there on the left, he informed us that when the tide comes in, the pink salmon come in. When the pink salmon come in, the bears emerge. And I tell you what, that tide came in, and about 45 seconds later, that bear was there. And he was only interested in the salmon. He wasn't interested in us. At one point, we had 2 guides and myself out there, and at one point, that bear, he was about 15 feet away from us, but he doesn't care. He just eats salmon. These bears, these coastal brown bears, are eating 40 to 60 pounds of salmon every day. And in Katmai, especially in Katmai and also in Denali Park, we've been visiting those areas for 30, 40 years as visitors to their world. Those bears are 3 generations deep. They know humans as 5 and 6 foot tall creatures on 2 legs that carry cameras. So they're not aggressive towards us, again, unless we approach them in a aggressive manner or such. But it's not uncommon to be, you can see there we're about 35 yards away from that guy. But it's their world. We're going to keep you safe, but it's pretty awesome to just put the camera down and take that moment in. This is at Big River Lakes. This is south of Anchorage, about 100 miles. Not recommended. I've been in that same situation. We're not going to have you fishing next to the bears. We'll leave you in the boat, but they don't really want to. They're not going to interfere with you. But at the same time, you can see this picture is a little dated, but I would say that's from the late 90s. We're going to keep in a safe proximity to those bears and respect their feeding habits as well. A lot of times in these areas that are congested with salmon, you've got the sow and cubs. So we just don't want to put you on the rocks with those bears. That's not going to happen. When you're out in the saltwater, lots of times you're fishing for those kings or silvers, those kings and silvers. As long as they're in the saltwater, they're still feeding. They're not in spawning mode. So they are eating the same fish that the whales are eating. So you'll be out there trolling for kings or mooching for silvers, and a humpback whale, will show up within 100 yards of you. And, not to overpromise or underdeliver, but John Jr. and I were on a trip about 20 years ago out of Seward, and we went about 7 miles out of Seward, and we were mooching for silvers, and there was about 15 humpbacks around us. And I mean, they were 15 feet away from the boat. We could see their eyeballs. It was pretty awesome. But the wildlife you encounter while you're out there fishing, pretty awesome. It's not uncommon when you're out saltwater fishing, look into a salmon or a halibut and have something higher up the food chain take interest in your catch. And what I mean is you'll be bringing a halibut up, and a sea lion or an orca or a seal will come up right behind you and grab some of or all of your fish, or come right up to the boat. So you're bringing up a 20 or 30-pound halibut and you're excited, and it's 5 feet away from you in the water, and all of a sudden a 17-foot orca comes at you at 25 miles an hour, and it'll put your pacemaker on check. So lots of wildlife to see out there other than salmon. The eagles you can see that's a little fuzzy there, but that eagle's got a little fish in his talons. I was fishing here about a month ago on the Kenai River, catching and releasing rainbow trout. It's the end of spring, end of winter, start of spring, and we were releasing our rainbows, and the eagles were about 5 feet away from us. So they were literally hitting the side of the boat with their wings. They didn't get any, but those birds will come from above and the orcas from below. So it's always a fun trip. This is from one of our combo trips a couple years ago. There's Johnny Jr. with the big fish. Liz has got a silver. Randy, our mechanics, these are kings, troll caught kings. We just got into them. But we have been fishing with this particular charter business for about 7 years. And Jeff, Seward, and the gang down there, they take such great care of us. We maximized our trip. So what we do is we go out in the morning 30 to 50 miles, and right behind us is Montague Island. So if you got your map out, we went out of Seward about 60 miles. We were fishing for halibut. We got our limit of halibut. We changed up gear and started trolling for those king salmon, and they were 12 to 20 pounds, and we were just in a bait ball, and we ended up getting our limit of halibut, our limit of kings. And then what we did, and we can certainly arrange for you, is we overnighted at a remote lodge. And we overnighted, we got our land legs back, we took a shower, we threw some chicken on the barbecue, we got 8 hours of good sleep, and guess what? We fished our way back to Seward the next day. So we did 2 days of fishing, got our limit of halibut and salmon both days. And I could tell you the poundage, but it wouldn't make sense to you. We had about 350 pounds of salmon and halibut that we had to get vacuum packed. So we ate lunch while they took care of it. So we can, if you really want to maximize those trips, we can arrange overnight trips to remote lodges. Those lodges are comfortable. We work with a couple different lodges. A lot of times it's pretty, they'll feed you. You got a shower. You got warm water. Get you out of the bugs and such. You're listening to the ocean lap, but it's a great relaxing trip to really push the limits, and it's a blast. I mean, if you want to get your arms and biceps in shape, it's fantastic. But we've seen whales and such out there, but that's on our trip a couple years ago. There's me down on the Kenai River. That's a sockeye or a coho salmon. I like to use light gear, but that was in August. So those silver salmon are between 8 to 12 pounds. Some of the bigger ones get into the 18, 19, 20 pound range. But that's down there on the Kenai River, which is south of Anchorage. It's a 30-minute flight, now 15-minute flight actually, to Soldotna, or you can drive down. It takes about 2.5 hours to get down there. We can talk logistics later, but the Kenai River has some of the best salmon runs. The best salmon runs you can drive to outside of the Copper River. But it's not uncommon to go out, catch some silvers in the morning, and then spend a little time chasing rainbows for catch and release. And the bears are out. But it was a blast. And we've got a handful of guides down there, great guides. They're going to take care of you. If you're fishing on the river, and this goes for pretty much any river, king salmon, Kodiak, out of Anchorage, out of Talkeetna, those power boats hold 4 anglers. So it's going to be you and your spouse and 2 other people, or you can charter the whole boat, but you're only going to have 4 anglers on a boat. If you're more of a fly fishing, and I don't want to say purist, but if you're a fly fisherman and you really enjoy a quieter trip, we work with companies on the upper Kenai that do drift boat only. And so drift boat is a non-motorized way to enjoy 5, 6, 7 miles of the Kenai fly fishing, spin fishing. You don't have to be, Brad Pitt from River Runs Through It to fish in Alaska. You can go out there with a spin rod and catch just as many fish as the guy with the fly rod. If you want to bring your fly rod, great. You don't have to. They have the gear. But I guess my point is 4 anglers per boat. I do find in certain instances, most of our guests aren't coming to Alaska more than 1 or 2 times. And why not spend a couple extra bucks and charter the entire boat? So it's you and your fishing buddy, you and your son, you and your spouse, and just the 2 of you have that guide for the day. So that's food for thought, and we can talk about that later. There's a little rainbow trout. That's the same river. That's the Kenai River. The rainbow trout and Dolly Varden are catch and release. So we catch them, we take pictures, we don't hold them over the inside of the boat. We keep them as close to the water as we can. We get them out for about 10 seconds and then we let them go. But the best rainbow trout fishing that you can drive to in Alaska is on the Kenai River. There is bigger rainbows in king salmon and out on the Kodiak River, but that's French to most people. But love catching those rainbows. There's a different trip. This is again with our John Hall crew. So juniors are there on the left, a couple of our tour drivers there. Marlo, our operations manager. This is another trip. We went with Jeff Seward and the gang down there at Cracker Jack, and we absolutely had a blast. Jeff is one of our premier guides. He's one of our favorite guides. I mean, we've got other vendors, but we literally on this trip, I can't remember how many years ago it was. I was a little younger there. Marlo was the first one in, and she had a fish on before the second line was even in the water. So we are fishing with good guys. They know what they're doing. Jeff's really, he's one of the best down there. He's got 16 or 17 years out in the salt now. But we always have a blast. The average halibut caught on a charter boat in Alaska is 20 to 40 pounds average. So there are bigger ones out there. Those big monstrous 100, 200 pound fish, they're fun to catch. They're not that good to eat. That's a different story. If again, when you're charter fishing, you can keep 2 halibut a day, one over 28 inches, one under 28 inches. A 28-inch fish is closest to Jeff's shoulder, so not John Jr., but I guess to the left there. Those little guys will yield about 5, 6, 7 pounds of meat. But you kind of want to just keep the big ones and let the little ones down there. But that's for later. But a lot of fun, biceps and backs. We had a great time fishing for them. There's different styles You can jig for them. You can fish circle hooks for them. There's carcass. We use fish carcasses. So we'll actually use salmon carcasses, lay it on the bottom, put the rod in the rod holder, and wait, because only the big boys can get those salmon carcasses in there. But I can tell fish stories all day. There's Jeff cleaning one of our fish. The captains on the boat will clean the fish, and they will recommend services to vacuum pack them, freeze them, flash freeze them, and get them back to a home for you. If you're coming up and you're fishing before your trip with us, before your tour, it's very, very simple to go fishing on Monday, have them vacuum pack your fish, flash freeze it, and say, hey, I'm not going to be home until the 1st of July. Can you FedEx it home on the 1st? And they'll hold it for you. So you don't have to worry about that fish for 7, 10, 14 days while you're in Alaska. They'll just say, hey, we'll FedEx it home for you to get it, or you can set, if the kids are watching the house or the house sitters there, we can do that as well. But guys at on the docks will recommend the best services for vacuum packing, commercially vacuum pack them, flash freeze them. If you've got someone you want to take care of at home that's watching your house or watching the kids, ask them to leave 5 or 6 pounds of the fish fresh, and that fresh fish will stay cold on the frozen fish until it gets home. So you can have fresh halibut versus frozen halibut. But that's getting into it. Great halibut fishing down in Homer. Great half-day trips, 3/4-day trips, full-day trips, overnight trips. But Homer is fantastic. Some of our half-day trips only go out 45 minutes away from the dock. So you get on that boat at 7 in the morning, and 7:45, your lines are in the water. If you go on a full-day charter, it's a little longer ride out there. We've got some fantastic partners down there as well. I got myself in trouble a couple years ago with my insurance agent. He wanted to go halibut fishing in Homer. I set him up on a charter with one of our premier providers. And about 3 days later, he says, hey, you owe me some Advil. And I said, what happened? He said, we caught so many fish, we couldn't use our arms for 2 days. So lots of great, it's all about getting on the right boat. We don't want you guessing and just picking up that phone book. So we want to get you out with guides we know are going to take care of you. Homer is about a 1-hour flight south of Anchorage. It's about a 5-hour drive. So if you're coming up early, you want to rent a car and drive to Homer and fish and come back, you really need 3 days to go fishing for one. And I will tell you, nobody wants to fish from 6:30 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon, get the fish processed, and then do a 5-hour drive back to Anchorage. That'll just wipe you out. So if you want to go halibut fishing, Homer's fantastic. Seward's fantastic. Whittier's great too. There's John Jr. and his wife Lauren. That's king salmon fishing. That looks like it's out on Lake Creek or up on Pal. I can't tell, but John will correct me later. I'm pretty sure that's on Lake Creek, but that's some of those king salmon fishing back. That's not that long ago, 5 or 6 years ago. John's still, Lauren's got a nice little 30-pound fish there. So again, if you want to catch a fish and keep it for kings, let us know. Otherwise, there are some fantastic day fly out trips for catch and release kings. So you may end up, catching and releasing 40 and 50-pound fish. You don't take any fish home, but the memory and the pictures and such are fantastic. And that's a really great way to enjoy getting out, seeing Alaska is one of these fly out trips from Anchorage. They leave at 7 in the morning. It's a 45-minute flight to the lodge. They get you in the boat. They check your license, and you're fishing within 90 minutes of leaving the Anchorage area and the float plains. You fish all day. We get lunch out there at the lodge, so you get out and stretch your legs and stuff, and you're back in Anchorage by 6:30 that night. So there are one-day fly-out trips available from Anchorage at a pretty reasonable cost. And fishing it can be very, very good. So again, what time of the year and what species are you targeting? Lake Creek's wonderful. Lake Creek is about 70 miles northwest of Anchorage, and it's about halfway to Denali. So if you get a clear day, you get a fantastic view of Denali on the flight out and back, and a couple spots on the river. There's me again. That's when in a previous life, I used to be a rafting guide, But the Arctic grayling, that's another one. A lot of folks want to just come up. These are the same fish you're going to catch out on Moose Creek in Denali at the Backcountry Lodge. But these Arctic grayling live in super, super clean water. They've got that huge pectoral fin. They average 14 to 20 inches. They're very tenacious. They're not very finicky. They've got about 100 days to eat before 120 before the ice sets back up. So grayling fishing is a fantastic way to keep the rod bent and the excitement going, and the stories will grow for sure. It's not uncommon, to catch, I don't know, 10 or 15, 20 grayling a day if you go in the right time at the right guides. There's some Dolly Varden or Arctic char. These are bull trout. These trout, this is on the Kenai River, and these rainbow trout, Arctic char, dollies, or bull trout. That's kind of all three the same thing. The Arctic chars go out in the ocean, but they are following those salmon up to eat the eggs and the flesh. So not only is the river chocked full of salmon, there's plenty of predators behind, such as these dollies, big rainbows. They're chasing those salmon to eat the eggs and the flesh. So it's a little bonus on top, and that's a lot of fun, a lot of action, a lot of time. I know I did a trip last year, actually with Taylor's pictured here, but Taylor's little brothers came up from Louisiana, and we caught over 50 rainbows in one day. It was a blast. We just took pictures and threw them back. The fish were big and the smiles were bigger. It was a lot of fun. Discussed fly out trips. So we absolutely can arrange a fly out trip from Lake Hood in Anchorage. Lake Hood is located right next to the Anchorage airport. Go out in a beaver or an otter at 206 and go shore fishing. A lot of times when you go out, it depends on where you're going and what you're doing. But this is actually down about 100 miles southwest of Anchorage on the other side of the inlet. And this was a group of guys that went out for the silver salmon, and the lodge out there that takes care of them, put them in a boat, takes them out fishing for the day. And the bears are real active in that area. So you're fishing with the bears. That's a fly out 1 hour, 6 hours of fishing, an hour for lunch, and an hour back. But what a great way, and that fresh air will make you sleep like a baby. A little bit of good eating while you're out and about. So this is from our small boat tour. This is down by Juneau, but we always feed you good. We're not going to give you peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but it may not be king crab every day, but really a good lunch, a nice hearty dinner or lunch. If you're doing an overnight trip, there's different lodge options depending on your budget and your expectations, but you got to enjoy a little of that king crab while you're up in Alaska. Another Arctic char, that's one of our guides down on the Kenai River. But again, these Arctic chars are just a blast. They're really aggressive, fun way to bend the rod, get some great memories and pictures. A lot of times later in the fall, as you get into August and early September, the river will drop. The fish know their time is running out, and they are bigger and fatter, and they know the kitchen's closing. So they're very, very aggressive. So it's a lot of fun to go out and catch those dollies and rainbows while you're out chasing the salmon. This is out again at about 100 miles southwest. These are little sockeye salmon. And it's funny, I say little 6 and 7 pound fish, but these are the sockeyes down there in Lake Clark National Park. So you can A, fish in a national park, and B, catch salmon at the same time. So I know this is a fishing webinar, but you can visit some national parks while you're catching some salmon as well. And the scenery out there is ridiculous. Alaska, and I know you guys know this, but Alaska is 1/5 the size of the lower 48, and you can drive to less than 10% of it. So most of our fishing holes are airplane in only or boat access only. So you get out there and it's pretty remote and quiet. It's wonderful, great way to not use the internet for a day. So this again, same spot, but after you catch your fill of fish, we take you around the lake and view the bears. A lot of times, again, the cubs with the sow, or the sows with the cubs, but very safe. You're in the comfort of the boat. You got your guide out there, but you're viewing these. Well, they're looking at a bear, so I don't have a bear picture here, but this again is down in Lake Clark National Park. You can just see how remote and beautiful Alaska can be, a little different than Florida, Minnesota, or Texas, but a lot of times if you do an overnight trip or even a day fly out trip, you're going to go to some of the prettiest country that you've seen. This is it's about 3/4 of the way between Anchorage and Mount Denali. These are just some scenic shots from the overnight trips to the different lodges. That's a sheefish. So a sheefish is a fish that runs more out west. And when I say out west, going 200 or 300 miles west of Anchorage, these fish make their way out to the Bering Sea, out to Norton Sound, Bristol Bay. But these fish come into the rivers to eat the smolt or the salmon fry that are leaving the system and heading either swimming around the river there or out to the ocean. And this is from last year. I was out about 250 miles west of Anchorage catching sheefish. We were, it was a blast, 8-pound test line and 15 to 20-pound fish. At one point, this was the first week of July, we were in a section of river and the river was literally boiling with sheefish that were feeding on the smolt. So we caught 60, I think, that day. It was a blast. But there's all different kinds of species. These fish, the sheefish, are I don't want to say migratory. They come into the rivers to feed. They go back out to the ocean to feed. So they're just coming in basically to have lunch or breakfast or, a couple of weeks of feeding in the river system. As you get further north, up towards the Yukon River, the Kobuk River, out there by Kotzebue, some of these sheefish are 60 or 70 years old and they get up near 60 pounds. So the sheefish is known as the tarpon of the north. They are just aggressive, fun fish to catch. Catching multi-species. What a blast. We had a great time out there, and you can see how crowded the river is. So. Another rainbow trout, as you get closer to August and September, these rainbow trout have been gorging themselves on salmon eggs and salmon flesh, so we do get some rainbow trout. This one's well over 10 pounds. That one's probably closer to 17, but fantastically big fish. So just a blast to catch a huge rainbow like that. Pound for pound, I think the hardest fighting fish, but kings are nice, silvers are fun, but a big, heavy 10, 15-pound rainbow will change your life. These are sockeye salmon, so there's limits. Of course, we want you to know the limits. We don't want you to go to a river with 2 fish limits. We want 3 fish limits. We want to know what you want, so we send you to the right spot. So we whack those fish. We usually get them out of the water. We leave them in the water, so that's a different picture there. But we stack those fish up, clean them up, and get them home at the end of the day. There's another picture of John Jr. out there in Lake Clark National Park. He put the spinning rod down. He got the fly rod out. And the fishing is so good that you can try your hand at fly fishing. Why not? So, the guides are out there to enhance your day, but you can see short sleeve weather and out there catching Arctic char at that point. There's our trip last year on September 2nd. This was Liz's birthday. We went out in saltwater. And we went with Jeff. We were catching these Lingcod. It's my buddy Ryan, but we were catching these 30, 40-pound Lingcod on top of our halibut. If you've ever eaten Lingcod, they are delicious. Lingcod are not in season until July 1st. And I know there's no quiz at the end, but I'm just giving you information here. We were able to keep 1 Lingcod per person. Again, 30, 40-pound fish. They were a blast. We were jigging them. We were in about 240 feet of water several years ago, and I can't tell you how many years ago because I'm getting too old. But Joe and I were out the last week of May, and Joe and I caught a 55-pound Lingcod, and it was May 28th or 29th. It wasn't July 1st, so we took a picture and threw it back. But you can keep these Lingcod after July 1st. So there's different rockfish seasons, but what a blast. And you can see my arms are worn out. Couldn't even lift that thing up, but I got a little chuckle out of that. Great fishing out of Prince William Sound. If you look here, all the way, I think it's to your right, is the little town of Whittier by Passage Canal. Whittier is 1 hour from Anchorage. You move across that map, you see Valdez. We do visit Valdez on our Untamed tour. So there's saltwater fishing out of the Valdez. You go to the other side of the bay or the sound from Whittier over to Cordova. Our Untamed tour goes into Cordova. One of the options at the lodge there is a day of saltwater fishing. And those guides will let you know, do you want a salmon fish? Do you want a halibut fish? Do you want a combo? It depends on what time of the year it is. I love this picture. If you can really quickly If you look at Prince William Sound there, Prince William Sound has more coastline than the entire lower 48. So it's a lot bigger than it looks there. Kind of middle center is Montague Island. Montague Island, you can't see the southwest end of it, but Montague Island is 66 miles across, and that's where we go out on most of our halibut fishing trips. But again, Prince William Sound, endless opportunities. If you look kind of halfway between Whittier and Montague is Chiniga Island over there, and Evans Island is just below that. That's where we overnight on our overnight trips when we go out of Seward or Whittier. So if you want to do 2 days of fishing instead of one, we can certainly talk about that. Prince William Sound is very protected. I won't say it's perfectly flat and smooth out there, but you can get in water, especially out of Whittier, Cordova, and Valdez. A lot of times you're just fishing in waters that are less than a foot. I mean, and there's not much chop out there. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Just depends on what Mother Nature wants to do that day. Again, this is a great shot. You can see it's a little fuzzy there, but there's a bear just to the left side of the lake on the shoreline there. I guess it's on your right side, but little bear on the coastline. You'll be out there fishing. They're looking for food. This is in September. You can see the fresh snowfall down there. Blueberries in the area. This again, rainbow trout fishing at Wonder Lake. There is a canoe out there. So if you want to get out and paddle around in the canoe, let us know. We can certainly help arrange that. There's the Denali Backcountry Lodge again on Moose Creek. This is this is where we spend 2 nights. And there are grayling right there that entire stretch of river is full of grayling. But it's really nice to just go out there and catch some fish, make some memories. Denali Backcountry Lodge is the deepest lodge in the park. So when you go into Denali Park, 92 miles in, that's where we stay. Wake up in the morning, have a cup of coffee, and we have 2 adventure days out there. And when you're at the Denali Backcountry Lodge, you pick the adventure you want. That's included in your trip. So if you want to pan for gold, if you want to go hiking, if you want to go rainbow fishing or grayling fishing, they have all the gear out there. But I know I'm one of those guys that wakes up at 5:30, has a sip of coffee, and wonders why I don't have a fishing rod in my hand yet. So I'll get out there and catch a couple of fish before the wife wakes up. That's down there. That's some of our guests there. This is on the Kenai River. So we're offering fishing on the upper Kenai River in Cooper Landing this year. This is just a scenic float. This is where I do most of my fishing from a car, not from an airplane. But this is 100 miles south of Anchorage. The Kenai River is fed by a glacier. So it's kind of got that turquoise blue water. But again, fantastic fishing. Only month you cannot fish on the Kenai is May. So May 1st until the 2nd Tuesday in June, the river's closed for the big rainbow spawning. They just want to protect those rainbows. So right now I'm going through withdrawals. So I got to go to Talkeetna to go fishing for a month. Down in Homer, if you want to get done fishing, local saloon there, but this is down in Homer, Alaska. There's our mechanic, Randy, and he caught a nice little LOI rockfish last year. We went out, we chartered a boat for the day. We were using, you can see over Randy's shoulder there, nice light salmon deer jigging for these rockfish. When you're saltwater fishing in Alaska, you may be jigging for rockfish and end up catching a 100-pound halibut. So that's kind of the joy of saltwater fishing. You don't really know what you're going to catch when you're down there. We're certainly targeting different species, but beautiful, beautiful fish. Fly out trips. This is in Kodiak. Again, also king salmon out of Anchorage is where we're going to do most of it. But depending on your level of adventure you're looking for, just let us know so we can get you on the right trip so we meet your expectations. Orcas, these are some female orcas, and you can see the little calf in there. So when we go out fishing in Seward, out in Cordova, out of Valdez, a lot of times when you're out in the saltwater, you're fishing for the same species these orcas are chasing. So again, it's not uncommon to be reeling in a king, silver, or even a halibut and have those orcas come right up to the boat. There's one of our groups at the Orca Adventure Lodge, and they went out and caught a halibut and some king salmon, it looks like there. We did have, I don't have the picture in here, I don't know why it just came in my head, but we had a gal a couple years ago that went on a fly out trip into Prince William Sound, and she ended up catching a 190-pounder. There's Ken with a nice Prince William Sound king salmon. You can see how bright and beautiful that is. I don't know why that was in there twice. There's John's, and I got some great fish. That fish that I'm catching there, not that I'm a fisherman and I like to brag. I got in trouble with the guide. We were fishing halibut. We were 2 fish away from our limit, and our guide handed me a salmon rod, and he said, let this out 100 yards, and by the time you let it out 100 yards, you'll have a hit. And sure enough, I had a hit, and I missed it. I reeled it back in. He put bait on it. He looked me square in the eye. He grabbed my rod. He said, do not let this hit the bottom. So he walked away, and I sent it straight to the bottom. And on 20-pound test, I caught 109-pound halibut. But we got over that. That was a lot of fun. This is on the Kenai River. So we've got some great lodges down there if you want to go and spend an overnight. Fish all day, sit next to the campfire. Kenai is amazing. In Cooper Landing as well, that's on the upper Kenai River. That's just where the Russian River comes into the Kenai River. The Russian River, you can see it. On the river left there, you can see that little brown water, but the Russian River is a clear water stream. It's coming into that glacial-fed Kenai River. There's one of my rainbows I got this winter, catch and release, but just a blast, having a lot of fun. There's John. Whew, that picture's a little while ago. I'm gonna get in trouble for that. But John Jr. and John Sr., I think they're down, I don't know where they're at, down in Sitka maybe. Saltwater kingfishing, having a blast down there. The salmon fishing trips in Southeast are a shorter boat run. So it may be 15, 20, 30 minutes, might be an hour. If you're going out of Whittier, it's 3 hours. If you're going out of Seward, it's 2.5 to 3 hours. So if you're an ocean guy, it's great. If you're not an ocean person, let's talk about that. Those Southeast trips are a shorter boat ride. A lot of times the weather's a lot nicer. The water's a lot calmer. There's a nice coho salmon that Taylor caught. That was in late August. So that again was on the Kenai River. Little halibut down there in Kodiak. My nephew's holding that one. That was from last year. Stacking up the fish. So again, we will help with the arrangements of getting that fish processed and cleaned and either back to Anchorage or down back home to you via FedEx and stuff. This is out again, Wonder Lake. This is off the dock fishing for those rainbows. So a little bit of serenity. So rainbow fishing, that's my lovely wife, my buddy Dave. But that's a Kenai River rainbow. Just a blast. We got into them really, really good. That was in late August, early September. Clark National Park, you can see if the fishing is not good, which it will be, the scenery's better. Out in the saltwater, not sure where that is, but trolling for kings, or you can see how close they are to shore there, but they're trolling for kings. A little sockeye, or that's a coho or silver salmon on the Kenai River last August with my buddy Jeff. There's our lovely CEO, Elizabeth, last year from her birthday trip. She caught that yellow eye rockfish, and we had a great day of halibut fishing.